What's going on, my dudes? Chensley11 here, and welcome back to another episode in the A to Z series, where we are going through every single champion in League of Legends and giving you a basic or beginner's guide on each of them. Today, we're going to be showing you how to play Maokai Support for beginners. So we're going to be going through all of Maokai's runes, his build, and most importantly, all of his abilities, so you guys know what to do if you take him into the Rift yourself. So, if you are unfamiliar with the format of these videos, we're going to quickly go through that. So basically, we're going to go through everything I just mentioned. We're also going to give you a brief explanation of all the abilities at the beginning. So if you're watching the game, you've never seen Maokai at all, then you'll know what's kind of going on in the laning phase. And then later on, we'll be going through all of the abilities in a lot more detail with some examples in the top left. If you kind of like this format, hit the subscribe button because we are going through every single champion in the game. And we already have a fair few of them already on the channel. So thank you guys for subscribing if you did, and hit the like button as well if you enjoy the video. So what do I think about Maokai for beginners in general? So I think Maokai in general is a fantastic pick for beginners. I think he's very easy to play, and he's quite fun, especially with the build we're going today, which is kind of like a full AP build, which I think is a lot of fun. And I think it's easy to pull off simply because his abilities are all either AoE or their point and click. Okay, so it's very easy to hit everything. Nothing too hard to do. The combos are very straightforward. We'll go through those in a little bit of detail later. He has great peel for your ADC, which means he can get the ADC safe. Like he can knock enemies away from your ADC. He's got good poke with this build, and he's got great initiation as well. So he's got literally everything a support needs to do well and get your carry fed, which is the ultimate goal of a support. If you're very new to the game, what we just did there is we just helped the jungler with the leash. We basically just helped him kill that first camp, and then we head to lane with our Ezreal. And we're up against a Vayne and a Karthus, which is a very interesting matchup because they are both carries in essence. So one of them is obviously going to be playing support, which is the Karthus because he's got the Spell Thief Edge in the top left corner. So it's kind of weird to see that. I definitely haven't played against this lane before, especially on Maokai as well. Definitely haven't played against this lane. But essentially your goal is simple. When you're playing Maokai, you want to poke as much as you can with your E, which is a sapling, and we'll go through that in a moment. And then when you see a good opportunity to engage, you go in with your W and your Q. And your ignite as well. You just chuck it on the target you're trying to kill. And then hopefully your ADC can follow up. And if you've chosen a good time, an advantageous time, you should get the kills and carry the game by just getting your ADC fed. And you can also do some roams mid if you feel, or go help the jungler as well, because he has fantastic initiation and setup as well. He's really great champion for support, and I highly recommend you pick him up. And I found he was a lot of fun too, especially with this build, because you can catch a lot of people off guard with how much damage his E does later on in the game, which is a sapling. So we are going to quickly go through all the abilities very fast, so you know what's going on in the lane. The Q basically smacks a branch down, and it does AoE damage in a line. It also knocks people or champions back away from you. So you can use this one of two ways. You can use it to knock people away, or you can use it to knock people towards you or your teammates by getting behind them and using your Q. So fairly easy to understand. The W is basically a point and click ability where you click on a target with your W and you teleport to them, and you deal damage when you arrive, but you're obviously on top of them, so it's great initiation. The E is the sapling toss we've been throwing out. So you summon a little, there's the W there, and there's the Q. So you can see here, I picked a good time to initiate. We ignite the Vayne. The Vayne uses all her summoners, so does my ADC. I use my ignite. And then we're just trying to peel our Ezreal off. Peel our Ezreal by knocking the Karthus away. And then their jungler shows up as well to gank. So we go 2 for 1. And we are going to flash just to be safe so we don't die ourselves. So we go 2 for 1 there, so it's fantastic. We get 2 kills on our ADC, which is what we're trying to do. Unfortunately, the Ezreal died, so it wasn't perfect, but it was not too bad. And I didn't mention the passive. I'll mention the passive real quickly. Basically, every 25... the cooldown at the moment when I said that was 25 seconds, but every moment, or every time it's off cooldown, the passive rather, your next auto attack heals you, and it scales on a number of things, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail later. And there's also... the time it takes to get back off cooldown is also reduced when you hit or you are hit with abilities. So... but again, we'll go through all of that in much more detail later on in the video. But for now, just the basics so you understand what's going on. As I was saying, the ultimate goal is to get your carry fed. So if we go 2 for 1 like that, it's a fantastic trade. We're just trying to get the Ezreal fed. And now we see the Xin Zhao's coming in. And again, what I said before, Maokai has great setup. What this means is he can actually initiate, and then the jungler can help as well, right? So unfortunately, we don't quite get the W off on the target I wanted to, which was the Karthus, early on in the trade, but we do manage to get it in the end, which is why we get in there. And you see how we went behind him, then we queued, so we can queue him back into our team so he can't escape. So that's basically the main combo as well on Maokai. When you have your ultimate available after level 6, you can also ultimate to initiate that. That way you trap them, that way you can get on top of them with your W and then knock them back into your team. So you kind of lock them in place for a very, very long time. So that is why Maokai is fantastic. And very, very good support. He literally can do a lot of different things that support wants to do. So, now we've gone through those abilities quickly as my team tries to clean up the vein. I think they might get it, actually. Yes, they do. Xin Zhao goes in. We're going to go through the ability order. So this is the ability order. This is the order in which you take your ability. So level 1, you take your E. Level 2, your W. Level 3, your Q. Then you want to max your E. Now, what I mean by that is you always take a point in your E whenever you can. But level 6, you want to take your R, obviously. So always take a point in your ultimate whenever you can. Then after that, max your W second, and then max your Q last. And then, obviously, again, take a point in your ultimate whenever you can, which is 6, 11, and 16. So that's the ability order. In that way, your E will be doing as much damage as possible, which is your saplings. Again, remember to throw them in bushes whenever you can, because they do bonus damage. We'll go through that in a bit more detail later. Next, we're going to be going through the runes of this build. Now, remember, as I said, these are AP runes. So these are runes to go full damage, which is what I think is the most fun, and will you can see there how much damage it does to that Karthus. Just one sapling, almost a quarter health dim, and I don't really have any good items at the moment. That is the build we're going. So, you know, the high damage build, the high fun build, the snowballing kind of build. You can also go a tank build with I think it's Grasp. No, I'll put it up on the screen if I remember. But there is also a tank build that is also quite useful and quite fun. I just prefer this build, and I think it's a little bit more effective. That's all. And I highly recommend, if you're new to the game or new to playing Maokai, to give this one a go as well. I guess try both of them, but I think you'll land on this one because it's a lot more fun and it does a lot of damage and it is easy to play. Alright, so the runes. So these runes are Arcane Comet as your keystone. Then you want to go Mana Flow Band, Transcendence. You want to go Scorch for the burn. Then you want to go Magical Footwear and Biscuit Delivery. Now, all of those runes are, in essence, to help you do a lot more damage earlier in the game, and also to just increase your damage potential with your, the Arcane Comet or whatever. It does synergize simply because your ability is slow, and that allows the Arcane Comet to hit more often. That's where the synergy comes in from. That's why you take Arcane Comet. So just getting more damage, more poke, more lane dominance, which is kind of what works for beginner games, right? So if you win the lane really hard, you can win the game quite easily. So here we can see we're just trying to help out the Xin Zhao, which is what I said earlier. Let's make sure you roam if you can. So you can see here we get our ultimate up, level 6. And we're just trying to get away from the Karthus, who's still alive after he dies. And unfortunately, Ezreal misses that. So that's the runes, guys. Quite straightforward. Also, on the little runes down the bottom, we take double adaptive force and also an armor, a defense. Because we are usually, most of the time, into physical damage dealing champions in the bot lane. However, if they are playing a mage bot lane, which is possible, for example, if the Karthus was the carry and there was another support, then you might be worth taking a magic resist runes, especially if they have an AP jungler as well and an AP mid laner. So if you're unsure, take armor, because most of the time you'll be playing up against a physical damage dealing champ. But if you know what all the damage types are for different champions, and you can take magic resist if you need. Just be aware that minions also do physical damage, so you have to consider that if you take magic resist, you're also going to be taking more damage from minions as well. Alright, let's go through the build and the summoner spells as well. So for summoner spells, Flash is always a must when you're playing more or less every single champion in the game. There are unique champions that don't take Flash, but Maokai is not one of them. So Flash, and then Ignite. So this is for that lane dominance, all in. There are unique cases where you'd rather have an Exhaust or something like that, but if you're unsure, take Ignite, and just remember to use it when you're going in for a trade. If you want to initiate and you think it's a good time to initiate, go in with your W, hit your Ignite, hit your Q backwards towards your team so they can't escape. Use your ultimate if you can in a good time as well. Now, that's the basic gist of the Ignite. And it also cuts healing if there are any high healing champions on the enemy team, such as like Master Yi, I guess, or like a Lowy or something like that, Fiora. Just remember to Ignite. And they all can also pick up kills if they are fleeing and they just tick over and die. So now the build itself, now you can start Spell Thief Edge or you can start Relic Shield. It's up to you. Spell Thief's Edge is more for if you're going to be doing a lot of poking. Relic Shield is if you're going to be standing up closer and be hitting all the minions to get more CS. Either work. I think I took Relic Shield to try it this game, but I think I like Spell Thief's Edge more. But it's not that much of a big deal as long as you take one or the other for the support item, because you're going to need the wards that comes with. So again, we pick a good time to engage. We go in with the WQ. We also use our ultimate. They can't escape. Ezreal, another 2 kills. So he's up to, I can't remember how many kills he's up to now, but he's on a few. We got 6 assists, no deaths, no kills, which is perfect score for a support. And we're going to get a couple plates for Ezreal as well. So our Ezreal is really strong at the moment, which basically means anytime the enemy bot duo step up, we can go in and start a trade. Here, what I just did is also make sure you're controlling vision around the map when you're playing support. So I bought a control, just dropped it in that bush. It basically reveals any enemy wards and gives you vision at the same time. And it stays there for the rest of the game unless it's cleared. Now, just be aware it's not a stealth ward. So if an enemy walks into that bush, they will see it and they will be able to clear it. And they are a little bit, not expensive, but they are worth it. They're 75 gold each. Okay, so we're going to go through the actual main portion of the build now after you take your starting items. So you want to be going Imperial Mandate. Now, Imperial Mandate, abilities that slow or mobilize champions deal bonus magic damage. Literally all your abilities do that. So Imperial Mandate is fantastic on Maokai. Fantastic synergy, which is why you always rush this item when you're going the AP build. Next, you want to go Demonic you want to go Sork Shoes, obviously. You want to get your boots. When your magical footwear comes in, you want to upgrade those to the Sork penetration boots as soon as you can for the magic penetration. And obviously, you get the bonus movement speed. Then you want to go Demonic Embrace, which is obviously fantastic on Maokai. The burn is fantastic. It synergizes with what you're trying to do, which is poke, right? Then you want to go Morellonomicon if they have a lot of healing. Now, this just comes with experience of knowing which champions have a lot of healing. But if you're unsure, it's not a terrible item to pick up because it does have Magic Pen. But it's not great if they don't have healing. And if they don't have healing, maybe pick up a Zhonya's instead. Zhonya's Hourglass. And then you can go Winter's Approach as your final item, or any of the other items that are on the bottom of the example I've shown. Again, items, apart from the first 2 items, which are the core 2, plus the boots, the rest is kind of always up to the game, you know, what's going on with the game state. If they have a lot of healing, like 3 champions with a lot of healing, Morellonomicon. If they have a lot of bursty champions, like Assassins, then maybe Zhonya's is your best call. If they have a lot of poke, maybe you can even go a Banshee's Veil. You know, it's something you're always going to be thinking about, and it just comes with experience. Eventually, you'll pick up what to build when. However, if you're just unsure, build what I've put on the screen, and you should be okay, especially if you're just starting out. So that is the build, guys, and the runes. Just be aware that if you're watching this video, you know, in a month's time or even a year's time or whatever, the builds change. So just look it up on Mobalytics or something like that if you're new, and they will usually give you a pretty good guide of what to build. Now, I will also mention this now because I just noticed I purchased it. I also bought a Dark Seal, which I went through in a lot of detail last video. But Dark Seal essentially is fantastic on Maokai. Obviously, he's an AP kind of dealing champion, and that's the build we're going. Plus, he's quite tanky despite building full magic damage. I mean, he's not super tanky, obviously, with this build, but he is more tanky than normal, and he's getting a lot of assists, and you're trying to stay safe, and that's why it's fantastic on Maokai, because you can stack that up, upgrade it to a Magi's if you're having a good game, and snowball the game even harder. Alright, so that's everything I wanted to get through in terms of build and that. So now let's actually go through the abilities in a lot of detail. So first, we're going to be going through Maokai's passive, which is called Sap Magic. So Sap Magic is, obviously it's a passive, it's nothing you have to do, it's just something that's happening in the background. So periodically, the next basic attack Maokai has, if it's off cooldown, you can see there in the bottom left, that passive little icon ticking down. It's on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 there. When that's off cooldown, your next basic attack, has an uncancelable wind-up, and heals Maokai based on level and based on your maximum health. So that scales more if you're going the full tank build. Remember that. So that's not going to be doing as much if you're going the full AP build. Also, just a little smaller side, it will not proc if you have 95% health or higher. And then another part of it, another extra component, is that enemies, each time, Maokai casts an ability or is struck by an enemy ability. So whenever you cast one or whenever you are hit by an ability, the cooldown of Sap Magic is reduced by 4 seconds. So it's just something to keep in mind as well. So the more you're using your abilities or the more you're frontlining for your team, the more often you can use the Sap Magic and heal. So here we're trying to peel the team off the dragon, peel the enemies off the dragon and help the Akali here as much as I can. So we go in, all in on the Vi. We get bursted. Remember, we are pretty squishy with this build. Relatively squishy versus the other build. So we have to kind of flash out there pretty fast. And then we end up helping out the team on the back line and getting another assist for our team. Unfortunately, the Akali dies, but we did secure the dragon, which was the main goal, and we survived. Or we didn't. Unfortunately, the Jace flashed for us, which is okay. It wasn't a shutdown on us, so that's not the end of the world. But remember, when you do die with Dark Seal, you lose your stacks, which is quite sad. But we did get Jace's flash, which is another small positive. Another bit of silver lining there. So with all the gold we ended up funneling into Ezreal, he can end up going nuts on his own. Unfortunately, he went a little bit too ham, and he might get shut down here by the enemy team. So a little bit too advanced. If you are playing ADC and your support dies and you're pushed up like that and no one else in your team is alive, expect to get killed. Okay, so a little bit too high with the Ezreal. At least he got a kill on his way out. So next, we're going to be going through the Q. So the Q is called Bramble Smash. So Maokai sends a shockwave in a target direction that does magic damage and slows enemies by 99%. So remember, 99% slow. Basically can't move. For 0.25 seconds. Enemies near Maokai are also stunned and for 0.5 seconds and knocked back. So basically, the way this works is you want to use your W to get on top of the enemy. That way, when you hit them with your Q straight after, you always stun them and knock them into your team or knock them away from your team. So that's the combo with the W and the Q. The Q is to close the gap. Sorry, the W is to close the gap, and then the Q is to stun / knock them away. So you can see here the Vayne initiates on me, caught me out on a ward that I wasn't paying attention on. So we go in because Ezreal's coming, so we end up snagging her with the root. So we have to kind of peel away. Try to go a little bit too aggressive there, especially when the Jace is coming, because now the Ezreal is going to get absolutely killed as well. So a lot of League of Legends is knowing what went wrong. So that was my fault. As soon as I got caught out by the Vayne, I should have just retreated to my tower. What I did was I baited the Ezreal into fighting by using my ultimate and stunning the target that we wanted to kill. We did get a kill, but it wasn't worth it in the end. Because if we waited under tower, Akali would have showed up like she's done here and cleaned up anyway, and we would have survived and maybe even got the Jace. So it's good to always watch your videos back, or watch your replays back if you're really serious about the game, to see what you can do better. That's another benefit of making these videos. I can kind of look at my own gameplay and say, well, that was pretty stupid. I got a little bit too ham there. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say with the Q. It's a very, very simple ability. Magic damage, it slows. It also knocks people back from where you're standing and stuns them if they're close within you. Very, very simple. So far, the abilities are quite easy to understand. Now, let's go through Twisted Advance, which is the W. So, Maokai dashes to a target enemy while being untargetable, dealing magic damage and rooting them up for a duration upon arrival. Now, the root duration goes up on when you level it up, but it's not a lot, which is why you max it last, right? So your W is your 1 point wonder, and what that means is you put 1 point into it, obviously, because it's a very important ability, but it doesn't do a lot when you level it up, okay? So it doesn't get much better. The cooldown goes down, the damage goes up a little bit, and the root duration goes up, but it's not that important to level it up early. So that's why you always want to level up your E, then your Q, then your W in that order. However, in saying that, it's a very simple ability, but it's very, very powerful. It's fantastic for the engage, right? So knowing when to go. When you push the go button is your W. So you can... What I like to do in the combo for Maokai is you use your ultimate and then you W straight, like if they're within range. So you use your ultimate, then you use your W. That way when you get to them and then you cue them back towards your roots, they can't move and they're going to definitely get hit by your roots and then get stunned again. So your team can end up killing or picking whoever you like. So here we're just sticking mid lane with the support. So this is just a general strategy that's, you know, kind of beginner stuff for playing support or ADC. Once you kind of get your tower bot, you can either go top to get their tower, their first tower, or then just go mid and clear waves and be ready to move for the objectives. Support and ADC are basically the team fighting champions on the team. Most of the time, they need to be around for the team fights. Support can usually, sometimes it doesn't have to be like that, but the support needs to be in the mid lane or around so it can lay vision or get set up for the objective. The ADC, 99 times out of 100, is the prime team fighting champion. That's your damage, right? So they need to be around for the team fight. So that's why it's often good to sit mid after you get your first tower. So here, this is what I mean. You want to be ready for this team fight. So they come for the dragon team fight, and we use our ultimate to try and stun the team. Unfortunately, we get very, very low and we die to a burn, and it isn't the best team fight. But the Akali is going to actually pick up a few kills and actually carry us, which is fantastic. So again, you need to be aware and ready for that fight. Now, what I could do better as the Maokai is set up a bit more vision around the area and also set up your saplings. Now, what I mean by set up your saplings is if you drop the saplings in the bush, they last longer. And we'll go through that in a moment when we go through the E. But also, they give a little bit of vision. And if the enemy team are walking into the dragon, they're gonna set off the saplings and take a bunch of damage and come into that fight chunked, like have less health. So that's essentially what you want to be doing. So my bad there. You need to set up the objectives early if you're trying to be a really good Maokai support. But that's, you know, it's not the end of the world. All right, so let's go through the sapling toss as we go on to the Jace here. So we see the Jace is starting a fight. So we see him out of position rather, and we go in. Unfortunately, we get absolutely bursted. So again, I will say, when you're playing this build, remember you are quite squishy versus if you're used to playing a tankier style of Maokai. However, the damage you can output is fantastic. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. There's risks, there's negatives and benefits. We do get the kill over to the Ezreal. I believe it was a shutdown. I can't be 100% sure. But my life for their main threat is a good trade. I think their Jace they're probably their most scariest target. Unfortunately, the Xinjiao tries to 1v1 the Vi and doesn't quite survive. So this game started very, very well. I mean, we got our ADC very, very far ahead, but it's starting to twist the other way a little bit. But that's okay. We'll see how we go. See if we can carry this game. So next, we're going to go through the sapling toss. So this is the main Maokai ability. This is the fun ability. So sapling toss. Maokai flings a sapling to a target location, granting sight of the area. Remember, I said it gives vision. Once landed, the sapling remains stationary for 30 seconds or until it reacts with the first visible enemy. So that's minions, monsters, or enemy champions. And then it chases them for 2.5 seconds and then explodes. And then when it explodes, it deals magic damage and it slows them for 35% for 2.5 seconds. Okay? So that's the base sapling. Like if you don't throw it into a brush or a bush. If you throw it into a brush, instead, it lasts 30 seconds plus 2% of your bonus health. Now, with this build, we are not building a ton of bonus health. We are building a little bit with the Imperial Mandate, which is the first item we get. So it will last a little bit longer than 30 seconds, but not a whole lot longer. If you're going full tank build, it will last a lot longer. But they'll do less damage because obviously not building a lot of AP, which is damage, right? But they'll last longer. So if they come from a bush, they hit the enemy and do double damage. Now, the double damage will hit in 3 bursts. One burst will go off instantly as soon as they get hit by it, and then it'll kind of stick to them and go doof, doof, like kind of like that. But basically, just remember it does double the damage. You can see here, we hit the sapling and the ultimate, and we end up getting a kill on the backside. And then the Vi ends up chasing me to get a kill, but we lead her directly into the ADC, who's nice and fed, and helps me get the kill. Essentially, we pick up another kill there from a sapling that I threw in that trade. So remember, always throw your saplings. They are your big damage. Throw them as soon as they're off cooldown. If you're near a bush, throw it in the bush. As soon as it lands in the bush, it activates and turns into the upgraded version. Okay, so if they come out of a bush as well, they reveal the enemy, because it kind of like jumps on their back and ticks twice, like dush, dush, and reveals them for 3 seconds as well. So a little bit of a bonus there as well. All right, so that's the sapling toss. They are quite easy to understand. In the laning phase, they can be a little bit tricky because if you don't throw them correctly, they're just going to run into the wave every time without poking the enemy. So my best advice is when the wave is thin and low and they've stepped forward, throw it all the way behind them. That way they kind of like don't know what to do, and then it runs to them and hits them and explodes. If you throw them like in between the minion wave and them, they back out, it'll just run to the wave and explode, and you'll just shove the wave, which is sometimes not what you want to do, especially if you're behind, right? You can see here, throwing saplings in bushes whenever I see fit or wherever's a good time. Remember, they last 30 seconds. If they don't get exploded, no harm done. The cooldown on these guys are very, very low. So you see, we used one in that bush. So if anyone walks near that bush, like the Viger or the Vi, then the Arcane Comet goes off. You can see how much damage this did to the Vi. That makes her think twice about initiating if she was about to initiate. So yeah, always be throwing your sapling tosses. Always, 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 whenever it's off cooldown. Especially if you're going this build when you have a lot of mana. You generally won't run out of mana very fast, so you can just throw them a lot. Now, we've got to have a dragon spawning soon, and I've pinged it. And my first instinct should be to start prepping, which is what I did, which is fantastic. Ward, and start setting up saplings around. So throw the saplings in that bush, because that's mainly where they're going to come from. We got good vision coverage on that side of the jungle. So we throw the sapling in there, so we'll see them coming. Now, my team kind of wanted to set up a pick on the Jace before we started the Dragon, which is a good strategy. If we can get a pick on the enemy team before we start the Dragon, now it's a 4v5, right? So this Dragon's going to be a free fight, which unfortunately meant I didn't quite get enough saplings down, which I would have liked, but we do get a few down. And then there's another one in that bush. The Vi is going to have to eat that one. So yeah, just look how much damage that does. Absolutely insane. There's the Imperial Mandate going off. So she almost went half health from one sapling. You can see here we go on top of her, and we're going to peel her off the dragon by stunning her so she can't get in for the smite still. So little things you can do to just help your team there. Throw again saplings in the bushes. Unfortunately, the Vargar just Control-Alt-deleted the Xinjiao, which is not very nice. Alright, so now we're going to go through Nature's Grasp, which is Maokai's ultimate, which is a very massive ultimate visually, and it's actually a quite impactful one. It's a very, very cool ultimate, and very useful one too. Makes a big difference in team fights. It actually does a lot of damage in this build, so I think it actually got me a kill a little bit earlier on the video, so don't sleep on the damage it actually does too. So Maokai summons a colossal wave of 5 thorny brambles. I think I said 6 or 8 before, so I was wrong, it's 5. That slowly advance in a target direction, accelerating over time, each stopping when they collide with an enemy champion. Each bramble does magic damage and roots the enemy for 0.8 to 2.6 seconds, depending on how far it travels. So if you use it very, very early and know its range very well, which is something that happens with experience, essentially you can let it go to the maximum range and then it'll stun for longer. If you want that little quick stun because you've got a very bursty team, then you don't have to use it for run very far. I wouldn't recommend stealing or taking the scuttle crabs like I just did there, unless you're very, very confident in your own abilities, but because although you are building damage, there's other champions in the game that will probably do a lot of damage. You know, like the jungler or the ADC could have taken that gold or experience. But see here, there's the ultimate there. Even if it doesn't catch anyone like it did there, it's good for just keeping the enemies like moving the opposite direction there. And then you saw what I did there was a fantastic example of peeling the enemy. So I basically used my W to collapse onto the advancing Vi, knock her away from ADC, saving their life. So that's basically what you're doing as Maokai. You're initiating, you're poking, and you're peeling for your ADC, which can be a little bit overwhelming because you might not know what to do. Prioritize keeping your ADC alive if you can, but if they go disappear to the bot lane like they've done now, then you want to be trying to poking / initiating or peeling if we're trying to get out of the fight. So it just takes a bit of time and practice to know what you should be doing. But if something feels right, then sometimes it's the correct thing to do. All right, so that's all the abilities. One more thing I will say about the sapling toss, because I just want to reiterate how important this ability is. And you can see here, throwing it in bushes on their way to the objective, so they walk into it as we go to do the Baron. its range is actually a lot. And you see the Arcane Comet go off, and you can see on the minimap the Vi's on the map. That means that she walked into it. Just remember that the range of the actual how far you can toss a sapling is massive. And that's the second sapling that hit, and we basically almost killed the Vi with 2 saplings with this build. Fantastic, guys. That's why I love this build. So we chuck another sapling into the bush to go chase after the Vigar. We use our ultimate to try and save the Zilean, but we end up killing the Vi with our ultimate. Remember, it does a lot of damage with this build. And that basically secures a free Baron for us. So my 2 saplings plus the ultimate killed the Vi. Okay, so just think about that as a support, how impactful that would be in a big team fight. So fantastic that we got that off, and we get a Baron, which is great for our team. A lot of gold. Obviously, we get the pushing power, and we get the accelerated backs. So that's basically all the abilities, guys. So if you are curious or have a question on anything at all, Maokai, leave it down in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And with the build as well, if you have any questions about the other build, the tank build, you can go check that out on sites like Mobilytics, or you can ask a question and I'll try and help you out. But I personally have a lot more fun on this build, simply because I think it's actually easier because it makes your decision making easier. It's just sit back and poke and peel and use your ultimate at a nice time. Unfortunately, we steal the Scuttle Crab off the Akali, which again is not what I recommend doing. It wasn't on purpose. The burn got it. Hence the emotions from both of us, the emotes. So again, we got Dragon coming up. What's the rule? We want to start setting up saplings. Putting them in all the bushes around. You don't have to put them in bushes, for obvious reasons. Put them in bushes where you can, because they do more damage. Team wants to initiate. So I think we're going to... See, here's a good time. If my team wanted to initiate, I should use my ultimate a little bit earlier. And I think I end up using it. And we end up catching Vi with a bit of vision that the sapling provides. Look how much damage that sapling's done. Almost half health with 1 sapling. Absolutely insane. And I think, again, as I was saying here, what I should have either committed with the ultimate, or just, again, keep setting up so we guarantee the dragon, which is what we're doing. What we're doing now is okay as well, because nothing bad's going to happen. So, again, I use my ultimate. I think I misclicked this, but it ends up working okay from memory. So we end up catching the Jace and doing a lot of damage. We get half health to Jace. We get them on the back foot. And we're actually the initiation, which is kind of fun to do. Just remember, you're a bit squishy. So if they're running away from you like this, it works out. But just remember that you can die very quickly if they decide to turn. All right, so we poke them all the way back. And for some reason, the Vigar's splitting topside, so we need to pay attention on that. But I think we can get a tower before we leave, and even the inhibitor. Again, chucking the saplings whenever we can. So in this situation, I should be trying to peel the Ezreal. So that's why I go straight back to protect the Ezreal. And then just, again, trying to chuck your saplings whenever you can. We end up going on a rampage. We end up going 4, 4, and 20. So 20 assists, which is fantastic. The Ezreal warps out there. So I should be kind of close to the Ezreal here. I don't know how I got that kill, but eventually I got another kill there. So we're 5, 4, and 20. So a lot of damage is going out from my saplings and my abilities without me having to do much. I'm just kind of using my abilities when I off cooldown and people are dying around me. And you see that I got 2 saplings ready to go to just go smash them. So anyway, guys, I think that we're going to push an end in this video. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, be sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. We do use the ultimate there to just make sure we lock them into their fountain in case they respawned. But anyway, Maokai is a lot of fun. I highly recommend him for newer players. If you have any questions on Maokai, leave them in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.